All right, guys, welcome to the very first Upshaw Unfiltered podcast. I hope everybody can hear me well. This is the very first time that you're hearing this. So, this is a brand new take on not only the fishing world, but everything else that is going on. Because the reality is the fishing world's about this big and everything else is like this big. So, we're going to talk everything outside of fishing. I'm going to do my best to not really even talk about fishing very much. Yes, we will dabble in it a little bit. And I know some of you might not be a big fan of that, but the reality is that even fishermen have lives outside of what we currently do, just like I do. Uh, Upshaw Unfiltered is going to be something that is going to be on once a week, every Tuesday at noon. That is the plan. Now, granted, you and I both know that everything is wild and things might change, but the goal is noon every Tuesday. So we're going to have a different guest on. It's not just going to be me and Todd Castledine. It's not going to be just me and my buddies. We're going to try to do it where we get 52 different guests on every single week. So, that's the big goal. We're going to talk today with James Watson. The reason I had James Watson on is because he is a very interesting fella. I mean, way beyond the fishing aspect of things. Ex-military, had an altercation the other day on the beach. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And so without further ado, let's bring James Worldwide Watson into the show.
What's up, Upshaw?
How's it going, buddy? How's things going with you?
Good, bud. I appreciate you having me on. I almost made it to the parking lot here at Menards because you save big money at Menards. Okay? If you don't know that, I'm telling you, you save big money at Menards.
Heck yeah. No doubt about it. So, James, this is the very first Upshaw Unfiltered show. This is going to be a podcast that's on every Tuesday at noon. This is going to be a live podcast. So, obviously, it's unfiltered. I mean, we're not going to sit there and edit things out or do anything like that. So, it's definitely going to be a different atmosphere than what people are mainly used to on my channel. And obviously, the one thing that I want to touch on first, James, is I know you're a busy guy, so I don't want to waste too much of your time. Obviously, you had a bit of an altercation the other day, you and a fellow angler, Gerald Swindle. I'm not going to just completely overwhelm you with that. Here is the video for anybody that did not watch it. I apologize in advance for a little bit of language here, but here it is. Obviously, y'all have a guy pinned down on the beach, and tell us a little bit about this. I mean, obviously, you don't have to go into grave detail. I've watched your video. If you haven't watched Watson's video about this altercation, this is definitely something that some might believe is a little bit obscure for you, because for me, looking at James Watson, I feel like James Watson's literally ready to go ham on somebody any given moment. So tell us a little bit about the situation and what actually happened.
Well, let's first go to that clip. That's I had a 1 minute long clip, and that's the last 30 seconds of that clip that I felt would be okay to put on the social media. That's right before the cops actually walk up, and Gerald takes his hand off, the firefighter takes his hand off, and I take my hand and knee off of the guy, and then the cops put the handcuffs on him. So that's all that we really had video wise. I'm sure there's more out there, and so on and so forth. And if that comes out, great. If it doesn't, who cares? But it was our last full day in Key West. We did a short little trip with Gerald and Leanne, my fiance Laura and I, Key West, and we had rented mopeds. And Gerald and Leanne are well rehearsed at the Key West going down. They know all the sites and everything. So we decided to take a trip on our mopeds, which I called our hogs. Very powerful, Andrew. You're probably too small to handle the power of these mopeds.
There's no doubt.
So we're cruising to look at sites, and we come to this beach. We park our hogs and we get off of them. We're walking to a pier. Gerald says, "Let's go out. I want to show you this pier." And we're walking out to this pier, and he's telling me that, these public beaches aren't that nice. There's got a lot of rocks in it and blah, blah, blah. And we got off our hogs and we're probably 50 yards away from the pier and 10 yards on the beach now. And in front of us, another 10 yards, is crazy lady in the video, walks up behind the guy below me holding a leg, and starts accusing him of something and gets in their personal space, very uncomfortably in their personal space. The guy stands up and he has to push her away, and he pushes her and she falls down. And then her boyfriend or whoever the fella that we've got restrained is in her relationship, he jumps up and wants to fight this guy now, and they go round and round. There are some swings made. There's a slight contact made. The firefighter makes contact, kicks him right in the balls, does nothing to the guy. They go round and round. The whole time, Gerald and I are trying to break this up and convince the guy to get on down the beach. The cops are on their way, blah, blah. Just effing leave, get out of here. And he just wants to fight. So he goes to fighting with the firefighter again. The crazy lady in the video, she actually throws sand at the guy's face, and it doesn't luckily make contact. But he ends up wrestling a little bit more, gets him on the ground, and shows mercy to the guy and thinks it's all cool, lets the guy up, and he comes right back after him. And by this time, again, Gerald and I the whole time have been in there. We've been reached over, we've been, tapped at, we've been not swung at, but I did a couple things that I shouldn't have done. One, I turned my back to the guy and got in between him. I'm sure Gerald was also in between it. But at one point, I'd actually turned my back and realized what I was doing, turned my back to the guy and faced the firefighter, trying to get the situation calmed down and trying also to see that this is not just a one-sided deal or 3-on-1. We just want this thing to be broke up. The guy go on down the beach and the firefighter go back to his umbrella and lay down and have a good time. And I should never turn my back to the guy, but I knew when I did that Gerald was in position. If I got cocked, Gerald could get him. So that's all taking place. And then all of a sudden the script is flipped and the aggression is now towards Gerald. And it's probably because Gerald's a little bit louder than me, believe it or not. But it was directed straight at Gerald, and the firefighter just, is no longer the one that's getting poked at and threatened. And, one thing led to another, and that escalated quickly. And again, Gerald and I are just trying to tell the guy, get on down. You don't want none of this. We kept saying, you don't want none of this. Go away. You're going to lose here. I mean, we obviously had the upper hand by having 3 grown men in the situation. It was a losing situation for this guy, but he could win if he just walked on down the freaking beach. All right. But he wouldn't do that. And crazy people are like this. And this is what, as I said in my video, I trained for this shit. All right. No, I'm not a policeman. I've got that kind of training, but we did, know what to do. The Army training, even though it was a long time ago, still can come back. It's like riding a bike. I'm just not as fast as I used to be. So one thing led to another, and there was some swings, and Gerald was still wearing his glasses. Hell, I even screwed up. I think I was wearing my glasses. There's a lot of things that go through your mind while this is happening. There's a lot of things that go through your mind after it's happened. Two things there. We both had our sunglasses on. We shouldn't have. All right. But the bad thing about that, when you remove your headgear and you remove your sunglasses and you throw them to the side, that also could be mistaken for aggression.
Right.
So we shouldn't have had our sunglasses on. But when Gerald got in there and I'm in there, I did not get hit. Gerald, again, the guy's hyper focused on Gerald. Gerald got struck and he still had his glasses on. He wouldn't have received that kind of damage, I believe, had he not been wearing his glasses, because all the cut is right around the frame of the glasses, all up in here, and then the nose piece side over here. So I think it was really exacerbated by him wearing his glasses. Gerald also contacted with the guy because the guy had a big cut above his right eye. When the momentum, I don't know if it was from a push or the strike of Gerald, got the guy going backwards, and I'm in there elbow to elbow, sand on me and everything. When that guy started stumbling backwards, my reaction was to get him on the ground. So I tripped him, I grabbed him, forward momentum of Gerald. We spun him around, put him facing the dirt, and make sure that he wasn't going to get up. Now I'm 250 pounds, so he wasn't going to move me. I threatened to put my knee on the back of his neck while another Karen was screaming at me not to do that, and I told her to shut the F up. This guy could hurt everybody here, and I know what I'm doing. I did not put my foot on the back of his neck, and I had him restrained, and that was enough.
Exactly.
And then we hog-tied his legs back. I pulled. The firefighter had his legs crossed and pulled up. I said, "Give me one of his feet," and I pulled it up even tighter or not tighter, but so that I could have the control that I needed in that situation. And Gerald had his hands, I think, on the guy's shoulder. Again, it all happened. That was probably 3 to 5 to 6 minute long situation. And I told Gerald when it's said and done, and Gerald agreed. It's like, man, I think we were at the right place at the right time today. Not that we needed this drama in our lives or needed this kind of attention, but that we did. We were there for a reason. That happened right in front of us for a reason. We were the right people at the right time to help another man out. And this gentleman is a retired firefighter, totally capable of taking care of himself. But he did, after the situation de-escalated and got ramped right back up again, he said, "Anybody going to help?" And that's when Gerald and I jumped in.
Right. Well, and as somebody like yourself that comes from a big time military background, everybody's first impression is somebody like that is going to be hot headed and go, that doesn't understand the difference between fight or de-escalate. Knowing who you are, I know you're that kind of person, and having a family that is full of military members and past military members, veterans, my father and my brother included. Everybody thinks that the first impression is I'm going to go knock that dude's lights out and end it completely. And that's not the case. And that's the one thing I want to portray across this is, just because that's what everybody thinks is going to happen doesn't mean necessarily that's what needs to happen.
No. No, the first thing in any situation, you evaluate the situation, identify your risk, know who your targets are, what's your escape plan. There's all sorts of things to evaluate in that situation. And the very first thing is, can we de-escalate this situation, break it up so that nobody's hurt? And that was the main mission. And had the guy walked on down the beach and the cops ran down there and tackled him, that's their duty.
Right.
You remember the Penny guy in not that I'm comparing the two situations, but remember the Daniel Penny Marine on the subway
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I paid a lot of attention to that situation. It's like, golly, how could society, how could a judge or a jury or a prosecutor, how could anybody, and I wasn't given all the evidence, ever think that that guy, Penny, was in the wrong for protecting everybody on that deal?
Right.
And today there was so many people that stood by. Look at that video. Count the grown men standing on the background. Not that they were needed, but they were there the whole time.
I see right there, just in that, there's 4.
Yes.
So
would our firefighter, had the aggressor been a 300-pound muscle man, would things have been different? Maybe so. I don't know. But I still would have been there trying to de-escalate the situation. And Gerald certainly would have too. I'm glad Gerald was there. He had my back and I had his, and we had the firefighters' back. And we're not heroes or anything like that. But it's just, I told Gerald, I said, this is some bullshit. I said, can we ever get away from some kind of negative drama?
Well, see, and I mean, I guess it just depends on how you look at it. I mean, was it a negative situation? Absolutely. But was it something that was necessarily a bad thing? No. I mean, to me, whether or not you see yourself a hero, not hero, whatever it may be, I do see it as a situation where calmer heads prevailed. Y'all were able to de-escalate a situation that could have been far worse and turned into a way worse situation. The day and age that we currently live in, it seems like less people are willing to step up when things get hard, when things are uncomfortable. There's more likely people to step out and film something than to actually step up and help others. And, I applaud y'all for that. Whether or not you want to see it one way or another, I do think that the world needs more of that, where people are willing to not just stand up and talk, but also stand up and do what's right.
It's a day and age where you're like, man, am I going, and I said it to Gerald. Gerald said it back. I said, man, we just need to walk on. Yeah, maybe so. And then then we'd like stand there and it's like, no. Hey, and then it turned to, hey, let's try to diffuse this situation and stuff. But man, everybody's so happy and this and that. And, it's just crazy, dude. It's crazy. I know I've caught a lot of flack, but I've also had some positive things come from the whole incident. I had, been banned for 2 years with MLF. I've gained a lot of supporters from, just standing up and saying this is wrong. And the reason I'm mentioning this right now, Ike and Ellie posted something on, I don't know if it was Ike Live that he's getting ready to do, but it's on his Instagram and it's on his Facebook, where he's like, hey, the Bassmasters, MLF stood up the Bass Pro Tour, and all of us anglers were going to have a voice, and we were told, you come over here and you have a voice, and we all rolled the dice to have a voice, and look at them. We never had a voice there, and they're now cut the field to 50 guys.
Right.
Just literally, putting a kibosh on your, at least your career with the Bass Pro Tour, 40% of the field. It's like, man, how many smoke and mirrors and how many things in this life, in this world, can throw at you that you just don't expect to happen? And so,
well, yeah, I mean, that's actually a really good segue into what the next topic was going to be. Obviously, both of us fish the NPFL. Both of us left certain organizations. I left FLW as soon as the merger happened, because I felt like I saw the writing on the wall as to what was going on and how the direction was going, and didn't really feel welcome back where I was. And a lot of people didn't understand that at the time, but it was more of taking a stand of what I felt like was right and wrong. And there was a handful of anglers did the exact same thing. back when you had your separation from MLF and you did receive your ban, I actually searched it up and AI gave me an explanation as to what actually happened there, which I thought was really funny because AI had an actual overview of your entire situation.
What?
um, yeah, it's crazy. Obviously, you made a big enough name, but it said the suspension was due to public criticism of MLF and his creation of merchandise related to the comments, which I was like, well, I guess it was a little bit of that. But
Half.
what people don't know is there's so much more, such a deeper story to that. We're not going to get into all that because I know there's a lot of stuff that goes on with that. But let's talk NPFL. Obviously, you actually you were a I don't know, were you a guest host or a MC or an on the water expert for them before you actually started fishing with the organization? Tell me what you think about it so far. Will you be back next year? I know that's some questions you can't answer. We don't have schedules yet. I've had a bunch of people asking me, but what do you think about it right now?
Uh, One, I've always appreciated the NPFL. They had some sponsor issues that hurt anglers and hurt the organization there in the second year or so on and so forth. But they popped their head above water and said, we're going to try to make as much as we can possibly make up for what happened and make it right. I applaud them for that. And you know that they run a great circuit. They show appreciation to all of us anglers that come there as paying participants, of course. Um, it's a five. It's a 5 years now, but it's still a startup company basically.
Right.
I think they've worked through a lot of issues. I think they're pretty transparent. They'll call spade a spade. I believe that they would DQ you uh, and and Hunter Bogman and anybody else in a heartbeat.
Right.
And say, hey, I'm sorry, but we're going to assess this penalty on you, or we're going to DQ you. And there isn't there isn't. I don't believe that there's favoritism. Um, you know, I think it helps out that they don't have publication. I think it helps out that they don't have a television show or anything like that right now to be persuaded by um, favoritism, if that makes any sense at all. They're just straightforward. Brad, being prior service to retired Air Force, um, he's just kind of a no bullshit deal. It's like, man, if you got a complaint that you want me to listen to, if it's a valid complaint, I want you to put it on this piece of paper as a protest and sign your name. If you
Right.
don't, this is what I really respect about the situation. I could mother F you on the water, come back, tell Brad I motherfuck. I'm sorry, mother effer
It's all good.
called, and he called my mom uh, uh, fat, and I want you to do something about it, Brad. Brad would look at me and says, "Pound sand, get out of here. I'm not dealing with that." You all right? If you and Andrew want to go up here behind the trailer and fight and do that, just don't let the guests and our fans of NPFL see.
Exactly.
And if they
Right.
do it, I'm kicking you both off tour.
Right.
That's how Brad handles things.
Yeah.
And that I like in leadership. I really do. And leadership in any organization, whether it's a fishing organization or Fortune 500 company, leadership is important. And if you don't have good leadership and your leadership bounces around like a ping pong ball, or your leadership doesn't know half of what they should about what's going on, you're going to have troubles. A lot of them.
Right.
A lot of them. So you get a
Well,
chance. I want you to look at something, and viewers, I want viewers to look at something. When I was in the Army a long, long time ago, it was 11 principles of leadership. Look that up, and you can AI this, Andrew, and pull right up. Just say the Army's 11 principles of leadership. You get a chance, look at those. If more people would take a look at those 11 principles of leadership and say, "Oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense." That right there helped me a lot in my business, whether it's my fishing business, whether it's my on camera, whether it's my social media. It doesn't matter. That 11 principles of leadership is something that I try to always live by, and that'll make you a better person. And I believe that the NPFL they spew the 11 principles of leadership. That's the way I feel.
right. And no, I agree with you. I'm really anticipating the schedule. Obviously, any additional rule changes, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen as far as all that goes. I'm excited to kind of see where they go from here, who they invite in, who actually leaves or stays. Obviously, that's all up in the air. That's all up to them. It isn't, everybody believes that it's just like, oh, well, if you just pay your money, you fish. And that is absolutely not the case with them. There's actually a long list of anglers that did not get in last year that were trying to get into the event. So they're very selective on who they bring in. Actually, I think Brad did an article the other day about the type of people they want to fish the NPFL. So I think that's pretty cool. So let's segue. We got two more little segments to go in this podcast. I know I've got Watson for a very short amount of time. So the very first thing I must say is what people don't know, and I'm telling you, absolutely no one knows this other than me and James Watson. Is actually at one point in my career, James Watson and I actually had beef. That beef, and that was years ago. He might not even remember what I'm talking about. But I had a YouTube channel with a friend of mine, a coworker of mine. It was called Prestige Worldwide Fishing. And,
Come on.
And honestly, we created this YouTube channel, and I actually think the YouTube channel actually still exists. I have nothing to do with it anymore. But me and my friend Brandon Total created this thing, and it was literally a knock on Prestige Worldwide from Step Brothers. And we'd been doing it a little while. We were tiny. I mean, I think it's still not a super large YouTube channel anyway. But I remember getting an email from James, and he's like, "Hey, that's my name on my stuff." And I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about, man?" Because I think at the time he thought that we were trying to knock him off, and I was like, "No, this is from Step Brothers, bro." Like,
yeah.
But
no, I did. I don't think I really don't consider that beef because after that didn't go back and forth more than you say.
Like 2 emails.
Yeah, I don't think. I apologize if I was, but I don't think I was ever ugly to you after that.
Oh, no, you were good. I just thought it was funny because nobody actually knows that. But like, we got into, and I was like, I remember getting the email, and I'm like, I got it, and I was telling my wife, I was like, "What the heck? I ain't doing this because of this." And I really thought I pissed James Watson off like to no end, and so that was. I just thought it was funny, and I thought it would make him laugh just because we're throwing it back like a good solid 10 years right there.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, that's a throwback. But the whole reason of Upshaw Unfiltered, this particular podcast, is to dive outside of fishing. Because don't get me wrong, me and Watson, we could sit here and talk fishing day in and day out all the time, and that's great. So on and so forth. Yeah, we talk Strike King, we talk all that stuff. But here, this is a segment called Beyond Fishing. I know I'm working on the title, guys. So yeah, just gotta be patient with me. But Beyond Fishing, I've got a couple questions for Watson, and we're gonna get into who Watson is. So obviously, Watson, I know you're a big real estate guy. You You do a lot of different things outside of fishing. Obviously, we all do way more than what people realize. But the first question is, how did the military prepare you for life? And I'm not necessarily life during the military, but outside of the military. I know you gave me your 11 principles that you learned in the Army as far as leadership goes, but what did that experience help mold you? Because now, and I want to preface this, I know my brother, when he went in the military, he was a shithead. And
Okay.
it was the best thing that ever happened to him, was going in the military, creating that structure and growing as a person, as an individual. When he was in Iraq, it really changed who he was, and came back, but still came back, in my opinion, a better person than when he left. And I think that was a really important aspect. So how did the military prepare you for your life, change you for your life, and all those things?
Man, that's a good question, and there's a lot I could talk for hours about what it did for me. One, I had a good upbringing. I had involved parents, involved grandparents. Uh, I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. Shit was not handed to me by any means. So my stepdad Ron, and my dad, and my mom, and my grandparents all had a big role on making me who I am. And so I want to say I was raised right. Did I get into some trouble in high school and party a lot? Yeah, I did, but I didn't get into trouble. Only got arrested one time. Um, but that wasn't the reason I joined the Army. I joined the Army because I couldn't fish like I wanted to. So I might as well get out of Miller, Missouri, great little town between Springfield and Joplin in Missouri here. But I didn't see anything happening for my life. So having the influence from my dad, Ron, and my grandpa Perry and my grandpa Bud, all being veterans, I was like, you know what? I like to run heavy equipment. Let me go join the Army, and one of the jobs was running heavy equipment, and that's what I did. And I got away, dude. And while there, you truly see every walk of life, dude. You really do. Every nationality, every skin color, male and female. It's a melting pot, and you get to see different types of leadership skills. And trust me, the Army is full of great leaders. The Army is also full of leaders who ain't worth a shit.
Absolutely.
And you'll learn a lot from great leaders, but you also learn some from poor leaders. So I had a couple of leaders that weren't very good leaders, and then I had some really, really good leaders. I had a leader that showed so much favoritism to a particular race, not mine. And it made me a well-rounded individual. But what the Army did for me is it laid everything that you needed to accomplish out in the form of a AR, Army regulation, a TM, a technical manual, an FM, a field manual. Anything that I needed to know, if I needed to know how to throw a hand grenade, I got it. It's written down. I can do it. And if you have 1 ounce of ambition whatsoever, the sky's the limit in the Army.
Right.
And when you seek responsibility, you take responsibility for your actions. That's part of the 11 principles of leadership. And I saw it's something about me at my first duty station. I kind of felt it coming. I wanted to do better. But it was my second duty station at Fort Drum, New York, in the 10th Mountain Division, where I got there and the real soldiering began. It was like my first duty station, the 19th Engineers at Fort Knox. It was great, but it was cush. It was like, here's your mission. We spent a lot of time in the barracks and some time in the motor pool, but it really wasn't. like it wasn't really important. Our mission didn't seem like very. Of course, it's important, but when I become a light fighter in the 10th Mountain Division, you wake up and you better have your boots on before you hit the ground when you wake up. That's how fast everything moved at Fort Drum, and I loved it. And I remember taking. You got to take a risk in life, and I took a risk in we had a battalion run, and this is a battalion's a large element, 4 companies of soldiers, over 100 and there's over 180 people just in my company. We had a battalion run, and I'm a private first class. I'm still in E3. I'm not even a well before I was ever a sergeant. I jumped out and I jumped out and I started calling cadence, double time cadence as an E3 at Fort Drum a few months after getting there. And I impressed, not my platoon sergeant, but I did my squad leader, but I impressed my first sergeant. And from that day forward, my first sergeant would give me responsibilities that pissed my platoon sergeant off.
Yeah.
And I knew right then and there that if I just stay motivated and do this, that I would gain rank. But with that gaining rank in life, you gain a lot of, you gotta consume the responsibility as well.
Right.
So I took that risk, and I found that was my niche. Andrew, I honestly would have retired out of the Army, I believe, had I got to go to Ranger School. Not saying I would have passed, but that was one thing that I asked for. And when I was in, they would not allow non-combative MOSs go to Ranger School.
Yeah.
And I believe if I'd got my tab, I probably would have been a lifer. I felt like I was going to be a lifer, but there was I started making money outside of soldiering, mowing yards, doing trees, stuff like that. Before you know it, I was making more than I was soldiering. My wife at the time was making great money in the Waynesville School District, and we just come to the conclusion that we probably should just get out. You know, I did almost 9 years. I declined a promotion to Sergeant First Class, and my first day of terminal leave was 9/11. So
that's wild.
It's wild. So,
I mean, yeah, talk about timing there.
Yeah, but dude, everything I did in the Army prepared me to be a better person, a better business person. It really, not that I've ever been a shy guy, imagine that. But when you can get up and talk in front of 12 people, or you can get up and talk in front of 1,200 people, not all people can do that. Not all people can talk in front of 12 people, let alone 1,200 people. That all helped me gain confidence in life.
Well, and that's a huge lesson there. I mean, for anybody that is watching that needs that little bit of extra motivation to understand that you've got to learn from everything. I think you can literally learn from any experience in your life, and you can use it as fuel. I've always been told that you learn your greatest lessons from your biggest defeats, and I live by that. And anytime you have something hard, you can always evaluate and try to build it up to something better in your life, and try to apply it to be a better human.
Absolutely.
You know, and I truly live by the golden rule. You treat people the way you want to be treated. And I think if you do that and you get outside your comfort zone, had James not actually gotten outside of his comfort zone and spoke out, I mean, he would have. Who knows what would have happened? So,
dude, look at all the guys that lost their position, and the great anglers. I mean, world-class anglers lost their position, or are bowing out of Bassmasters, or bowing out of the BPT, and not saying a damn word. That's just that's their mode of operation. They're not going to do it. But I don't go down without a fight. And some people say, well, that ain't a fight. You signed up and you didn't follow their rules. Well, some rules yep, I signed up to abide by the rules. And I said, well, sometimes rules are wrong. And what's the consequences for breaking said rule? Well, I could be fined or I could be kicked out of the league. Okay. Now now I know the consequences. Well, you can't really cry about it. Well, I can if I want. I'm the one that decided to break the rule, and I was the one that's told the consequences. But that still doesn't take the fight out of the dog. You know,
Right.
you got three choices in every situation. You just were talking there, Andrew. Every situation in your life, and I tell young kids when we used to talk to young kids, you remember how many high schools and college talks we would give to kids all the
Oh yeah.
time? I don't do any of them anymore.
I know, isn't that crazy?
They don't ask.
Mm-mm.
Okay, that's a whole nother subject. But here's what I'd always tell the group. It was less fishing related and more just life things. You got three choices at every situation that you're in front of. You can lead, you can follow, or you can get out of the way. And none of them are bad choices. Just make one.
Right.
And if you're the expert at everything, you're going to lose. If you're going to lead every time and you don't take one of them other two choices, just like in buddy tournaments, I'm going to lead when the plopper bite's hot. I'm going to tell you to sit down and shut your mouth and get the dip net. And then when we're offshore deep cranking, you're going to turn around and tell me, yeah, throw that big plug up there and shut up and get the net ready. And I'm going to follow.
Right.
And there's some situations where you just say, you know what? I don't have an effing clue. I'm just going to get completely out of the way. And there's nothing wrong with any of those. Nothing.
Right.
So,
Well, and see that actually is, I was told by an old military guy one time that, to be a great leader, you have to know how to be a great follower too, and to stay in your lane and understand that sometimes you're not going to know the best thing or the best point of action to understand how to do things. My dad, as a head football coach, he's told me for years it wasn't always about him being the very best coach out there, but he was the best leader because he would hire people that he believed knew more than he did in a certain situation. But what he was able to do is find that cohesiveness and build and bring people together and build programs and show people the way and still kind of guide everyone in the direction that they needed to go. And it really takes a different type of person to be able to understand the difference there. And so, but you're exactly right. Those three ways: lead, follow, or get out of the way. I mean, I think a lot of people can learn from that. I really wish that a lot of these programs would bring us back in and talk to these kids. The reality is they need to understand where they came from to know where they're going, so they don't repeat mistakes that we've made in the past.
you know what? Since I'm on your podcast I don't hold stuff back, but when I mentioned that about that, and I'm like, we don't get asked anymore. Well, why is that? Well, maybe it's because you suck, James. Well, no, I'm still a dynamic leader. I still get paid to talk at shows and do other things and be here and be there. I believe that in reality slapped me in the face last year at a show, and again this year at a show, Indianapolis show. There's another show I did last year somewhere, and I'm like, I'm and I don't want to pat myself on the back, and I know you don't pat yourself on the back, but we do have some credentials and we have been in the business quite some time. And if these guys actually follow fishing, they probably know who we are. Chances are I used to get approached by young kids a lot. And this is how things have shifted in the fishing world nowadays. Nowadays, kids don't approach me. They don't ask you for your autograph or advice or this or that. Hardly, when you used to get 5 or 6 people approach you, now you're lucky if one approaches you. I don't know if it's just the culture and they're more shy, or the other thing is in the fishing world nowadays, these young kids know more about forward-facing sonar and really don't need to hear anything I have to say about fishing.
Right.
And I think that's where we're at right now. And I hate that for our sport. I hate that for, I'm going to say, my sport that I grew up loving and
Right.
how it's changed drastically. And I've never poo-pooed forward-facing sonar. I never said anything bad about it, but it's just one component of fishing that now just dominates. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of where we're at. That's the world we live in. So the
breaks it.
last little thing, I know you got to go, but the last little thing I want to ask you, because I don't think anglers or just people in general ever really get asked this question very much outside of just a person to person conversation, would be Watson. I know you're a big fisherman. I know you are really big into real estate. I know you do a lot of different things. You got your hand, you got your iron in a million fires just as I do. Um, what do you do for fun or on the side that nobody knows about? Like, what is something that James Watson says, you know what, man, I can't wait to go do this, and nobody knows what this is? Or maybe they do know, but they really don't understand what James Watson, what makes him tick, what is his fun thing that he gets to go do? Because I promise you, we all have that fun thing.
Actually, making money right now doing tree work. And I'm no arborist, I'm no expert, I'm no climber or anything like that. But really, I get more excited about getting paid to go do a $500 tree removal than I would if an agent sells and slaps a $5,000 commission on the desk. My buddy Don Hauser said it best the other day. He's like, man, you ain't gonna believe this, Watson. I said, what's that? He said, man, I saw an old pickup truck. It's kind of like one I had back in the day. And he said, I stopped and I looked at it. Now, let me tell you, my buddy Hauser's pretty well off. He doesn't need to do this. Right. But he flipped this old pickup truck and sold it and made $1,200. Well, lo and behold, that afternoon, he's like, oh, good rent to get good. Glad to have that done out of the way. And we're always talking business. I said, what are you doing? He said, just, sold an apartment complex. I said, all right, good deal. And he goes back to talking about this $1,200 truck. And I said, hey, Don, I said, what'd you, and I never say to him, don't mind if I ask. I always just ask him. So, cause that's a friendship we got. I said, what'd you stuff in the old bank account on the apartment sale? 2.4 mil. He didn't give a shit about $4 million deal he just closed on. He was excited about the happiness that flipping that truck and that old boy handing him $1,200 cash made him.
And that's what it's all about to me. I mean, like you climbing trees and doing a tree removal. I mean, I know we all have our passions, and it's always interesting to me to find out what people's are, because there's always going to be something that makes them smile. There's always going to be something that they find joy in that could be like so minimal to other people, but it's such a big deal to what they do and who they are, and finding sometimes just something as simple as going and cutting down a tree is
mowing
so
your
satisfying. Yard. It's crazy.
Dude, I love mowing my yard. I do. I find peace in everything in mowing my yard. It's that, this is, I think, what young kids are really, really fixed on: immediate gratification. All right. They can't get it. I get immediate gratification out of a tree job or mowing my yard or stuff like that. And trust me, as I get older, it's harder and harder. And if you haven't started seeing it yourself, you will, Andrew. It gets harder and harder to leave home to go fish somewhere, especially hard to go fish somewhere that you don't like to fish.
Right.
That sucks. That
Definitely.
sucks. And I say to myself, man, I wish I was home mowing my damn yard.
No, I mean, I'm right there with you. I have a young kid growing up, and it's the hardest thing because we're middle of football season right now, or the beginning of football season right now. And, I actually have to miss a game of his for Saturday of Logan Martin. And, I find so much joy in just watching him play and coaching his team and being a part of his life. So no, I
Yep.
completely get it.
Yep.
And honestly, it's made my fishing falter more so than anything over the years, because I spend so much time at home, because I spend so much time with my family. But to me, that's what it's all about, and finding those things that you love. Lastly, I will say you just opened out. Is it a VRBO on Table
Yeah.
Rock?
Yeah. I got a new house that I built that was part-time nightly rental, and then my original house next door or one lot over is full-time nightly rental on Table Rock Lake there near Kimberling City. So
Well,
right on the
and
water.
for anybody knowing, they do have the Bass Pro Tour Championship. I guess it's Red Crest,
Yes.
coming to Table Rock. So make sure y'all go check out Watson's place. I know he's posted on Facebook. I'm pretty sure you posted on Facebook, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I've got, and people can, the best way to get a hold of me is just message me on Instagram.
Okay.
But we have social media pages for each house. The new house is Maple Cove Retreat. That's on Facebook and Instagram. And then the montage on Table Rock Lake is the other house, and it's on Facebook page and it's on Instagram as well.
Well, yeah, y'all got everybody. Y'all go check that out if you get a chance. If you're heading to Table Rock, I've seen the views from that place because when he posted it, he actually sent it to me, because I was like, man, what's this? I didn't even know what it was when he sent it to me. But I mean, the views are absolutely incredible. I mean, Table Rock is absolutely loaded with fish. I don't care what species you're targeting. It is definitely a place if you want a vacation, if you want to get away from the world, and sometimes we all need to do that. Sometimes even Worldwide himself has to get away from the world sometimes.
You bet.
You need to go check him out. Check out his Facebook, Instagram page. James, I really greatly appreciate you coming on podcast number 1. And
Thank
I
you.
think it was a really good one.
Yeah, thanks for having me on first. That's history right there, whether
Yep.
people like it or not. The first is a history. The second one, not so much. And I hope you have Fat Tad Castledine on your second one.
I'm assuming he'll be on at least once whenever it comes down to all this. But thank you again, James, and I'll be seeing you at the next tournament.
Okay, buddy. Be careful.
All right, we'll see you. Guys, that was James Watson. I know all of y'all see him, James Worldwide Watson. Definitely an angler that has done a lot in this industry. Definitely put the Whopper Plopper, the Rivers Sea Whopper Plopper. He's definitely been a big stalwart behind that, and a veteran. Obviously, I have a soft spot in my heart for veterans, what they do, what they have done, uh, and are active duty military. And so everything that they do is really awesome. But guys, this podcast is going to be something that we do, like I said again, one day a week, every Tuesday at noon Central Standard Time. We're going to try to have a different guest on each and every day. As you can tell, if you watch this particular episode, we did not just go into fishing. This is not going to be just your standard fishing podcast. I refuse to have it be one of those. That is not what this is going to be. This is going to be something way more, way better, and really dive into other things. And we're going to have guests on that are not anglers. We're going to have guests on that are not even in the fishing industry. This is going to be something that I've always, always, always wanted to do. And I don't care if we have 5 viewers or 5,000 viewers, we are going to do this. And I'm going to see this through. So, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this particular podcast. If you get a chance, make sure you share it with your friends, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you drop some comments below after the show is over with and tell us what you think. If you think something should change, if you think of a particular guest that should come on the show, I'd love to hear what it is. And thank you again, guys, and we'll see you on the next Upshaw Unfiltered.